Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Casey Freelove, Charlie O, Vasu Party here, powered by Stables Media, sponsored by Viget. What a great segment we had with Ken Sterling talking Sweet 16 Elite 8 basketball. If you missed any of it, you can download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Google, iHeart, Spotify, SoundCloud. Just download, subscribe, find the Make the Money and Run podcast. Also check out Stables Media, subscribe to Stables Media and all the great shows we have. All right, we talked college basketball. We've had all the college basketball. We can have the Elite Eight tonight and tomorrow. We will hit the NBA a little bit this last weekend. And set of circumstances here in the NBA as we put up the NBA lines for tonight, because we know that there are people that do NBA only, and the way the college has gone, you may only want to bet the NBA thanks to the Make the Money and Run crowd. Indiana 5 at Washington, Brooklyn 11 versus Minnesota. Miami 4 at New York. That's kind of a surprising line to me. Boston 2.5 at home, only 229.5. Memphis 8 at Houston, Dallas 11 at Oklahoma City. Let's hit these before we hit the second round ones. You can see the other games on the bottom of the ticker. Casey, Charlie, what's going on? Let's talk a little NBA here. What surprised you since we were on Friday in terms of the NBA this weekend?
The money that the Brooklyn Nets have found and how they're screwing over the NBA salary cap to ruin this season of basketball. I mean, okay, I'll say this. Blake Griffin is washed up, and I like Blake Griffin as a person. He's actually a pretty good stand-up comic, too. But, dude, LaMarcus Aldridge, along with Durant and Irving and Harden, who haven't even played together yet. I mean, if you're Adam Silver, Charlie, this isn't good for your league. I'm sorry. Yeah. The Lakers, LeBron, Anthony Davis show was enough to have people go like, I feel like I already know who's going to win it. Okay, so now it's just a different team that we know is going to win it, and it's bad for the game. I'm sorry. You remember back when they wouldn't let Chris Paul go to the Lakers? Whatever happened to the commissioner stepping in and putting a little logic into this thing?
It's out of hand. It's out of hand, and I can't take the full credit for the line. I altered it a little bit, but I sent out a tweet on Saturday saying that the Nets had finally filled their 53-man roster, and that's really how I feel. I mean, how insane has this whole thing become? And the other thing is, obviously, the association has to sit down and look at their salary cap structure and their luxury tax structure, because this thing is out of control because it's not working. Because you cannot be allowed to amass these kind of salaries and put yourself in a position, because everybody's kind of going, oh, okay, what does this got to do? What they're being able to do right now is have talent on the floor to get them to where they want to be and rest everybody that they want for the playoffs. And then it's going to be crazy. It's just going to be nuts come playoff time. And it's going to ruin the whole concept of what the playoffs are supposed to be all about. And you're right. I mean, the Davis LeBron thing was there, but your point is so well taken. They wouldn't let Chris Paul go to the Lakers, and now we're letting all this happen in Brooklyn, for heaven's sakes. I mean, this is as much of a scandal as the frozen envelope for Ewing in the first lottery. I mean, come on. It's, I know that Utah winning the NBA title is not all that necessary for the NBA, and maybe not as exciting for them marketing wise. And I get that, and that's okay. But this is out of hand.
What do you think, Vasu?
Well, I think it's I'm glad you mentioned the Chris Paul scenario, because I'm a Lakers fan, and he was traded to the Lakers, and then David Stern came in and said it's not in the best interest of the league. I understand if you want to go after players, you want to go over the salary cap, and you want to pay the tax, every other team has the opportunity to do that, and the Nets did it this time, so I can't really fault the Nets. I fault the league for not having the procedures and policies and to not let this happen, because you want to have some dynasties. You want to have people that have recognizable names, but I just don't think that this is the way to go about it. You can't stack up one team and let them win for 9 or 10 years in a row. Remember, the Philadelphia 76ers have won 15 out of 18, and their lead over Brooklyn is still only 2 games, and that's not even with a healthy Brooklyn roster or full Brooklyn roster. What's Miami Heat going to do? What's the Orlando? And then on the other end of the spectrum, then you got the Orlando Magic, who's gutting their team for their fan base, and they're getting rid of their 3 best players, looking to next year for assets and draft picks. and to acquire free agency pieces. Maybe they will go after some free agency. The NBA makes money. Every team is profitable in the NBA, whether anybody believes it or not. All 30 teams are profitable. But to go to one extreme or the other, I think it's bad for the league, and it's a bad look because now you have people turn on you. And I guess if you want to play soap opera, I guess that's the way to do it, because now you've got all the villains in the drama, and you've got the heroes in the drama. So now the Brooklyn Nets are the villains in the drama, whereas at the beginning of the year they were the heroes in the beginning of the year, because they were getting these pieces together, trying to build a team from scratch. And then the Lakers are the villains always, because now they've got Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I mean, I don't know what you can do as far as rule goes, guys, in terms of whether you can have more than two superstars. But then again, it's a slippery slope of what's a superstar, who's a superstar, or how much money are they making. It's whatever somebody's willing to pay you. I've always said that about free agency. And like I said, I never get excited about the draft, and I never get excited about the teams in the draft, because every year it's always the same teams in the draft. All right, let's look at the lines as we said today, as we get closer to the end of the show here. Indiana 5 at Washington. Washington split their series with the Knicks over the weekend. They ended up winning. They beat who did they beat the other day? They beat the Pistons on Saturday. They actually trounced the Pistons on Saturday. I can't figure Washington out. I can't figure if they're going to dump people out or not. Minnesota, this was a bad beat on SportsCenter. They were up 5.7 points as a 7-point underdog to Houston. I'm sorry, Houston was a 7-point underdog to Minnesota. Minnesota goes on a 15-0 run to end the game, and it makes SportsCenter highlights where Houston couldn't do anything, speaking of bad teams. And now that's a 239 total here for Brooklyn. Miami, New York, I mean, 204.5. When have we seen something in the 200s as far as totals in the NBA this year? Not very often. Even in the 210s, I kind of take a look at it and go, what's going on here? But 204.5, what's going on in New York right now for Miami and New York? And then you look at Dallas at Oklahoma City. Doncic didn't play the other night. They got beaten up by New Orleans at the end. Then you go to the second set of games. Toronto 3 at Detroit. How about, unlike what Kawhi Leonard did against the Clippers, against the Spurs the other day, sat out against the Spurs. Portland had Norman Powell, and Toronto had Trent and Rodney Hood play against each other. It's very weird to see. It was only 3 days after the trade deadline, but they did play for their new teams on Sunday, and it turned out to be a very exciting game. They're at Detroit, 214 the total. San Antonio has Sacramento, 2.5. By the way, shout out to Sacramento and the Kings the other night. How about Krista Blanc and the all-female crew, Katie Hunter? They got to call a game winner the other night. How about that for your first NBA game? Harrison Barnes 3. I wish we had property of the sound. We play the sound right now, but she called it great, and they did a great job. But now they're a 2.5-point underdog at San Antonio. Cleveland, how bad is Cleveland? 220 is the total there. 16 points for Utah. Charlie, Chicago is a 1-point favorite at Golden State. Curry's coming back tonight. It looks, all indications are he's coming back tonight. So if you want the Warriors, jump on the line right now, because they're going to be favored if that's the case later tonight. And then the Clippers, who've had 2 good games against Milwaukee, 231. Milwaukee, I can't figure out, guys. Milwaukee, they'll score 130, and then they'll score 110. Then they'll beat up on Boston on a Wednesday, and then they'll lose to Boston on a Friday. I'll start with Charlie on this. What do you think about today's lines, Charlie, in terms of how the NBA has gone for the last 3 days since we were on the air?
Well, one of the things that's going to happen, guys, is that all the teams that made moves during the trade deadline, it's going to take a few games for all of these players who came in. It's going to take a little bit for those moves to settle down. These guys aren't going to just these players aren't plug and play. They're going to come in and they're going to have some impact, but it's going to take 4 or 5 games for these guys to come in and to start to have real impact on their team. So just because a team got a player, don't start throwing a bunch of money at it because they got a new guy. Because just because they changed uniforms doesn't make them a superstar with the new team. They've got to learn the scheme, and they've got to learn how to play with the guy and how this guy likes to pass, and they've got to learn where they like to cut and do all those kind of things. So be careful with the money. Line-wise, there's some crazy lines out there tonight, and I think that's where you got to be careful. Although there's some lines that are tantalizing as well. The one line that really surprised me was that Dallas OKC line with the game being in Oklahoma City. I don't know. I think that's a line where Vegas is wanting to buy some some breakfast buffets for the guys after they get off work. I mean, I know OKC's terrible, but I also got to believe this is a game where the Mavericks are going to be looking to get some rest for some of their frontline players, and an 11-point favorite there. That doesn't look good to me. That looks like a game that you might want to fade because the money's going to come in on the Mavs there with that.
Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, the Mavericks are a really hard team to figure out. I'm looking at their last 10, and there's a lot of L's sprinkled in with a couple of W's. When they win, they typically do win by more than 10 points, I guess. I mean, I don't know if typical is even a word for this season, but their last 2 games out, they've been beaten by the Pacers and then in New Orleans. So that 11 is, there's always that line of the day. There's 2 of them today. That one and the Heat -4.5 at the Knicks that make you go, wait, don't I watch basketball? Like, I don't understand what's going on here. I think that I'm pretty good at setting lines, and these 2 don't make sense. As far as, looking at a game that I would play tonight, going back to Charlie's point, I want a team that's got pretty much their core, that didn't trade away a bunch of guys and move pieces around. I think the Pacers in Washington against that schizophrenic Wizards team, I think they're probably in pretty good shape. I like the way Sabonis is playing. They got LeVert back. He's a really good player as well. The other thing I like about them is they're 13-11 on the road, despite the fact they're under 500 with their record. So that's one that I think is comfortable. I know we talk a lot of Kings on here, and if you don't live in Northern California, you're not interested, but don't bet this game tonight. This line doesn't make sense either. Spurs -2.5. I couldn't run away from that faster. Sacramento's the kind of team that'll lull you in and get you to bet on them, and then they'll lose like 6 in a row against the spread. So I'm not touching that.
Or Saturday.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And then Cavs and Jazz, that line's a little high for my taste, but knowing this Utah team, Vasu, I watch them win this literally by a quarter of scoring, like 30 points against a terrible Cleveland team.
Well, Utah had 2 games against Memphis. They were big on Memphis on Friday night. Memphis came back, only lost by 4, 9-point favorite, and then they ended up playing Memphis again, and they ended up covering on Sunday again. So it has been a weird basketball season. So which gets me to the point before we get to picks. I'm going to put this up here for everybody to see. By the way, Vasu Vadaparty, Casey Freelove, Charlie O, Make the Money and Run podcast, Sweet 16 weekend, Elite 8 tonight and tomorrow. How do you guys like the format of a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Sweet 16, Elite 8 format? I kind of like it better than Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What do you think, Casey?
Yeah, it's tough. Now, luckily, I work in radio, so I can keep my eye on the TV while I'm working a little bit. But if I'm, an absolute college basketball maniac who just works a 9 to 5, I'm a little bit bummed out. But overall, if you guys are asking me which way would I vote if I could play, Commissioner Mark Emmert, I'm sticking with this. This is way more watchable. I literally watched every single game this weekend because of the way the schedule's set up. Even had time to run a couple of errands during the mini breaks that they had there. So I'm a fan of it, and I expect to see some fun basketball tonight, Chuck. I mean, these are the Elite 8, and at least it feels like at least 3 of these teams belong here.
Yeah, I would too. And this is a little bit of inside baseball because I'm involved in programming a radio station. The only thing that I would change, Vasu, is I would not go through to Tuesday on it. I would set it up Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday is how I would set it up. I think that would be a little more enjoyable, and I think there'd be a little less competition on TV, and also the Friday games would put the situation for. I think everybody takes off early on Fridays anyway, and it would give a little boost there. I think actually to the ratings. I think the Tuesday games are a bit of an outlier.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it because Thursday and Friday you get the Sweet 16. There's 4 games in each region, and that to me, or 2 games in each region. They all go at the same time, and I think there's a lot more people that are at least pre-COVID going out on Thursdays and Fridays. So I think they miss a lot. I think Mondays and Tuesdays after people coming home after work, both games are after 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock here. So it may miss a little bit on the West Coast, but I just think the Monday and Tuesday after work for the Elite 8, people can focus on it and then go into the weekend, Saturday and Monday. Obviously, Saturday and Monday have been the traditional days for the Final Four. So I guess we'll have to see. The NCAA will have to look at it, but the NCAA is such a reactive sport anyway. Mark Emmert's the worst president of any organization that I've ever been around.
The worst.
All you got to do is ask the NCAA women's tournament to figure out how that happened. And finally, by the way, good on the ESPN guys last week, all the male broadcasters. male sports broadcasters for coming to the defense of the women last week as well, too. Thanks to everybody on Facebook. We'll get to picks in a second here. Joe sent us a nice note. Happy Monday, you all. She's watching with us. She's making some money, too. I know she's killing it with the hockey again. So we'll get to her down the road as we get to the playoffs again. All right, so I put up your first instincts of the best, and this is why. I'm going to tell you a little story here. Uncle Vasu is going to tell you a little story here from Friday and Saturday. It's only going to take a minute here. Friday and Saturday, the Cleveland Cavaliers played the Los Angeles Lakers, and they played the Sacramento Kings. My first instincts on that game were to take the unders in both those games. The under came in Cleveland. I took Cleveland on Friday. I took Sacramento on Saturday. Cleveland was up 7 at the half. I thought that was going to be pretty good against the Lakers team. Lakers stormed to a 16-2 run to open the third quarter. Lose that. Saturday, Sacramento Kings, -9, coming off a 30-point victory over the Warriors on Thursday. Cleveland blows a 7-point lead on Friday night. Now they're shooting the lights out. They lose on a game winner by Harrison Barnes, but they cover the 9-point spread. Bottom line, loser. Oral Roberts, +11. I said it on Friday on the show. I said I'd been to take Oral Roberts, +11 against Houston on Saturday night. Oral Roberts against Arkansas on Saturday night. Changed it over about 5 minutes before the game starts. What happens? 72-70 victory for Arkansas over Oral Roberts. Are we getting a theme here? Loser. So anyway, the 4 things that happened. So I'm putting this on here, and I put it all in capital letters right now. First instincts are the best, and I believe Joe Madden would say that. Casey's girlfriend even told him that 2 Fridays ago when we were on the show. Charlie and I have talked about this off air. Casey and I have definitely talked about this off air because we're the ones that are actually putting money out there. So stick with your first instincts. If you feel like you know what's going on, stick with your first instincts out there. Obviously, take in all the advice, but the decision at the end is up to you. And the first instincts are always the best. We're going to have bad days. We're going to have good days. But in the end, your first instincts are going to come out to be the best. With that, we are going to either fade the public, fade make the money and run, or go with make the money and run as we go to Charlie O for his picks today. But first instincts are the best, Charlie O.
Well, first of all, you'll notice that I have in all capital letters, stay away from the NCAA tourney. And that is my first instinct because it has just been brutal. And, guys, these games today are just, I think they're unpredictable and wild hairs. I looked at them and I looked at totals. I looked at first half totals, first half spreads. Maybe a little recreational money if you just have to, but these are not good investments. They really aren't. So you've been warned. I don't know what else to tell you. As far as the NBA, I looked at this and I don't normally like double-digit spreads. I really don't. But it's freaking Brooklyn, who has a 53-man roster, and they're going up against Minnesota. So, okay, just take the 11 and win your money. Okay, just go away. And then this Knicks Heat game. I'm gonna take the Knicks plus the 4.5. I like the look on that. Just a little insight on this. The Knicks are 25-10 against the spread on teams that give up 106.5 or more, and that's exactly what Miami gives up on the season so far in their games on an average.
Oh, that is tasty right there.
That
as
is
I like
good.
to say. Very tasty, Chuck. I love
That
that.
is good.
Pull that one.
All right.
Nice.
All right, Casey, I don't have them typed up, but what's your picks for the night?
Well, real quick, as Charlie said, this is the kind where the multimillionaires can make a lot of money. If you're in Las Vegas, please run over to Circus Sports. You can get Brooklyn on the money line for a paltry -665 to win 100. So go bet like $6,000 on it, pick up an easy 1,000. I've got one pick tonight. Fade me. I stink, but I am taking the over in the Baylor-Arkansas game at 148. I feel like it's going to be a slow-moving first half. They're really going to turn it on in the second half. I expect this game to be competitive and close, so I will take over 148 in the Baylor-Arkansas game. And I literally, listening to Uncle Vasu's advice there, am scratching out the pick I came up with during the course of this hour because instinctually I hate it. So I'm not even going to say it. Baylor-Arkansas over 148 is the only play I'm making today.
You can tell us tomorrow. You can tell us on our next show whether you would have won it or lost it based on that. But we're not going to jinx it. We're not going to say it now. Before I get to my picks, I want to show obviously the great Joe Madden following us. She's teasing the dogs tonight. That's what she's doing tonight.
I like that.
She says, never fade, make the money and run. We appreciate it. By the way, her show, Hustle and Grind, today is Monday, 9 Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the network, Stables Media Network, on YouTube, on the Facebook pages, any of the Facebook pages. You can get them on the Hustle and Grind. All right, for my picks now, I am going to stick with my first instinct. So here we go. Baylor, -7.5. I just think their guard play is too good. Their rebounding is too good. Arkansas, they can go in and out of shooting, and they showed it against Oral Roberts the other night. They were down 7 at the half, and then they came out and got hot in the second half, and then towards the latter part of the second half, they ended up making shots, because if they don't make those shots, they'll go down. We'd have our 100th double-digit seed in the NCAA tournament for an 8-team field, but it feels like there's 100 double-digit seeds in this tournament right now. Houston, the way they played against that zone against Syracuse, -8 tonight against Oregon State. The Oregon State story will end tonight. Great story. They were not finished. They were not picked higher than last in the Pac-12. Houston can rebound the ball. Grimes and Sasser can shoot the ball. I don't know. I think their defense is too good for Ethan Thompson. Alice Tiche is very good. He got 11 rebounds the other night, but he's one-man crew right now. And Silva's been pretty good. If Oregon State shoots the ball like they did on Saturday against Loyola Chicago, then we're going to have another upset and they'll be in the Final Four. But I just don't see it happening with the Houston Cougars tonight. Kent Sterling, our guest, had Kelvin Sampson's a great coach, and don't think that he's not worried based on his actions on the sideline and his facial expressions on the sideline, that he's not worried about Wayne Tinkle and Oregon State tonight. I'm going to go with Charlie on the Brooklyn Nets tonight. -11, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, what can you say about the Timberwolves? Are they tanking? Are they not tanking? Brooklyn -11 tonight. They're going to have Irving at home. He's back from his 3-game absence on the road trip. So they'll have him and Harden there. And then Minnesota is looking at their number 3 draft pick, or the Warriors' number 3 draft, or the number 4 draft pick for the Warriors. I don't know, one or the other. Boston Celtics over 229.5. Let's face it, the Pelicans, they give up a ton of points. Boston's played better. Now they've got Marcus Smart back. 229.5 seems pretty cheap to me for Pelicans team that doesn't stop anybody, and we know they can score, even though they got rid of JJ Redick last week to Dallas. San Antonio -2.5 over Sacramento. Two straight games with Sacramento, one with and one against. San Antonio, the way they blew out the Bulls the other night, I'm going to take the San Antonio Spurs laying 2.5. They bought a house, and you guys know this being Sacramento, that's been a house of horrors in San Antonio for Sacramento over the years. Good team, even with their good teams over the years. I'm going 2.5. It's kind of low, and San Antonio playing well. Greg Popovich just got his 1,300th career win, 3rd all time in the NBA. And then Golden State, I'm going to put a caveat on. I should have put an asterisk on this. If Steph Curry does not play, then this game is off the board tonight. But it's leaning that he is going to play. So I'm jumping on it right now as a +1 underdog, because if he comes out and plays as it's in the news, they're going to end up being a 3.5 point, 2.5 point favorite, maybe a 3-point favorite against the Bulls tonight. Shout out to Kate Scott, 95.7. They're having their female broadcast tonight as well, too. But those are my picks for tonight. And that's what we've got going for the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16, the NBA. Wednesday night, we're going to have a baseball preview show, actually Thursday morning for a lot of people on opening day. Midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific, we're going to preview Major League Baseball and all the opening day. For the first time in a bunch of years, all 30 teams are going to play on Wednesday. All the rotations, all the rosters, basically all set. Tomorrow's the last day of spring training. And then on Friday, we'll be back with preview of the Final Four for this coming weekend, as well as the Major League Baseball and NBA. So that's going to do it for us today on Monday, March 29th, 2021. Can't wait for baseball to start. Can't wait for the games tonight. Casey, Charlie, it's always a pleasure to be with you. That's the Make the Money and Run podcast for March 29th, 2021. Download and subscribe if you missed any of the live broadcasts on Apple, Google, iHeart, or anywhere you get your podcast. We'll see you on Wednesday night for the baseball preview. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy the games, and good luck.